Parts of English words. I put this PowerPoint together because in my experience, I've seen how English words often seem complicated to Hebrew speakers. And when they see words like this, their eyes glaze over. It's overwhelming to them. Just all these syllables and all these parts. And so I put together a little presentation, make it a little bit easier for them to kind of deal with this. And it would start with this. So this would be the starting point, the parts of English words. And I start by kind of starting where they are and reminding them that a Hebrew word has a root. And for them, for example, chet daled shin, and with different meanings depending on how you fold the Hebrew word. So mitchadesh means to renew yourself. Chidush is an innovation. So depending on how you fold those three letters and how you uh, kind of configure them, you get different meanings. So that's how Hebrew works. English words are more modular, and the Hebrew word for that is modulari. So combining different parts to create new meanings. And by the way, this presentation, which we will make available to you to download, works the way I did. So every time you hit the return key, the slide builds like this, the little parts of it. So, I would recommend that you would familiarize yourself by watching this a little bit in that open book mode to see how the builds work, and then you'll be able to kind of make the presentation more effectively to your student. So English words are more modular, combining different parts to create new meanings. For example, here's a typical structure of an English word. We have the root, which is also like in Hebrew, you have a letter root, but in this case, the root view, which means to see. And then you have a prefix, which is a part that comes before. And as a matter of fact, the prefix pre means before. So you is fixed before the root. And in this case, preview means to see before, which is in Hebrew, tetzuga makdima. Again, you don't have to know the Hebrew. You can let them read the Hebrew part, but that's a preview in Hebrew. Let's take another example. Here's the root dict, which means in Latin to say. And again, we put the prefix before. So to say before is lachazot, okay, which is to predict. And then we have suffixes, which come after the root. And in this case, this suffix turns the verb into a noun. So to say before, what is the thing that happens when you say before? It's a nevuah, a prediction. So this is explaining to them how these words get kind of put together. Now, Hebrew has similar prefixes and suffixes. So there is an equivalent to pre, which is kdam, and ion, which is ut. You get tzionut, is like Zionism or Zionation or whatever. But ut is a similar, comparable to ion in English. But English has many, many more. And here with your student, you can go over as many of this. They will recognize many of these and remind them that you've seen preview, prepaid, pre-war, dislike, dishonest. You can count as many of these as you want to give them to give them the idea of it. And also a lot of suffixes. So, an, al, activity, urgency, meant, and you can kind of give them a couple of examples of this so they get the sense that these are all suffixes. It's a lot. You can commiserate with them, but you can gradually learn them. So we're not asking you to memorize them. Let's see, and then a couple more examples of how different combinations change the meaning. We start with the word tract, which means to pull, and or the suffix, which means one that does it. And for example, conductor, director, it's one who does these things. So in our case, tractor is a tractor. And that's the Hebrew word, tractor. So that should be quite familiar to them. Let's see how I can keep this root, pull, and add the prefix, which means out of. So to pull out of is lehotzi. And then subtract is just to pull below or to pull down, lehachsir, to subtract. So once you know what a prefix or a suffix, once you know what these parts mean, once you know the meaning of this one word part, you have a clue to some of the meaning in all these words. And you can take them through some of these, what a submarine is, what subfolder is, submit. Now it's not always clear. You don't know from submit how the word sub came to give it that meaning. So it's a clue. You don't always know. But certainly you have a lot of other words, substandard, it's below the standard, suboptimal, subnormal, or subsequence, lower in the sequence. So they get a clue as to what some of these words, even if they've never seen them before, might mean. And once you know individual word parts, you'll begin to recognize common combinations. For example, here are some combinations that they're going to see a lot. Full means having the qualities of, and respect, so mechabed, so having the quality of respect. Dis means not, so it's not having the quality of respect, lo mechabed. Grace, having the quality of grace, meudan. Not having the quality of grace, mevish or machpir. And again, they should recognize the Hebrew words, so this just kind of helps orient them. Tasteful, having the qualities of taste, betuv ta'am. Distasteful, b'tzura lo ne'ima. Able, here's another example of pairs they will see a lot. Likeable means you can able to like them, chaviv. Unlikable, lo chaviv. Unthinkable, and here's an English word that has 4 Hebrew words to kind of convey the same meaning. Bilti mitkabel al hada'at. Unspeakable, bilti nitan leta'er. Can't, or Hebrew like can't be described. Unbearable, bilti nisbal. So, and then after the presentation, I would recommend sending them a PDF, which we will also make available to you, which is a guide that shows common English word parts. Again, no need to memorize them, just become familiar with them. It could help. And that's the presentation. I don't know if there are any questions, but we'll make these both available to you. And then, in future conversations, when you pick apart a difficult word, you can look at those parts.